By sundown, I was this man on every local news channel, grinning like an idiot beside a cardboard check that said $15 million. By midnight, I was in handcuffs, face pressed against the hood of my own car, while a detective told me I was looking at decades in prison. And the worst part was this. My son stood behind them, watching me get taken away, and he never once asked why. My name is Benjamin Douglas. I am 67 years old. I am a grandfather. I have lived long enough to learn that luck is never just luck. I learned that lesson the hard way. It began the way all stories like this begin, with a small decision that feels meaningless until it destroys your life. I bought the ticket. I can still feel it in my fingers, that thin slip of paper, the cheap ink, the numbers that would turn my world inside out. I had stopped at Milton's Market because my granddaughter Emma wanted root beer floats. Emma lives with me on weekends. Her mother, my daughter, works nights at the hospital. Emma is 9, stubborn, bright-eyed, and she laughs the way my wife used to laugh before cancer stole the air from our house. That Friday, Emma had followed me down the aisles, holding the ice cream like it was a trophy. "Grandpa, don't forget the root beer," she said, pointing at the soda case. "I know," I told her. "I'm old, not helpless." She smiled at that. She liked when I teased myself. It made me feel safe to her. At the register, the lottery machine chirped and flashed its usual nonsense. "Big jackpot. Last chance. Today could be your day." I never played. Not seriously. I'm not the kind of man who builds his life around miracles. I built mine around schedules, wages, and rules. But that week had been ugly. A roof repair I couldn't afford, a property tax notice that made my stomach tighten, a stack of medical bills from the months I'd spent keeping my wife comfortable at the end, when comfort costs money no one warned you about. So I said, "Give me one of those." The clerk didn't even look surprised. He printed the ticket, slid it across the counter with my change, and told me to have a good night. I didn't check the numbers. I tossed the ticket into my pocket and drove home with Emma talking a mile a minute about her school project and how her teacher didn't understand dinosaurs the way Emma did. By the time I remembered the ticket, Emma was asleep on the couch with ice cream on her chin, and the TV was still on low in the corner. I took the slip from my pocket and laid it on the coffee table like it was nothing. My son Ethan called around then. We had not been close in years, not the way a father wants to be close to his only son. Ethan is 38. Smart. Clean. The kind of smart that doesn't sweat. He worked in systems for some company that always sounded vague when he described it. He spoke in careful sentences. He never raised his voice. When my wife got sick, Ethan visited twice, once for an hour, once for a weekend, during which he spent most of his time on his laptop in my study. He had excuses. Work, travel, stress. He always had excuses. "Dad," he said that night, warm as syrup. "You doing okay?" "I'm breathing," I said. He chuckled like we were sharing a joke. "I was thinking about coming by tomorrow," he said. "Maybe we can go out, celebrate something. It's been a while." It had been a while, yes, long enough that any sudden kindness felt like a trap. "What's the angle?" I asked. No laugh this time, just a beat of silence. "There's no angle," he said. "I miss you." I should have felt something good. A father is supposed to. Instead, I felt the familiar pinch behind my ribs. The one that came when I remembered all the times he didn't answer, the birthdays he forgot, the way my wife looked toward the door on her last Christmas, waiting for her son, pretending she wasn't waiting. "Come by if you want," I said. "Emma's here. Don't come with drama." "Never," he said, and he sounded offended. "I'll see you tomorrow." After I hung up, I remembered the lottery draw time. I turned the volume up and watched the numbers scroll along the bottom of the screen, half distracted, half amused by my own stupidity. Then the anchor's voice shifted. Her tone sharpened. "And tonight's winner, in the largest jackpot this county has seen in years." The numbers appeared again. I looked down at the ticket on my coffee table. I compared them once, twice. My brain refused to accept it. It did that thing brains do when the world becomes impossible. It tried to make it normal. It tried to tell me I was misreading, that my eyes were tired, that the lighting was bad. I turned on the lamp. I leaned closer. Match, match, match. All of them. I stood so fast the room spun. For a few seconds I couldn't breathe. I could hear Emma's small snore. I could hear the refrigerator hum. I could hear my own pulse pounding in my ears. Then I did the first thing that would later make me look guilty. I didn't call anyone. I didn't shout. I didn't wake Emma. I took the ticket and went into my bedroom and locked the door. I remember thinking, keep it quiet. Think first. Protect it. Protect it from what? From people. Money does something to people. I had watched it happen in my own family. My wife's sister once tried to bully her way into our savings after we bought our home. Cousins we hadn't seen in decades showed up at funerals asking questions about life insurance. And Ethan had been distant for years. Yet suddenly he wanted to celebrate something. So I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at that ticket, and I told myself I had earned this. I told myself that if I had to hide it for a day, if I had to be careful, if I had to move quietly, that was simply what a smart man did. In the morning, I drove to the lottery office. I wore my best jacket. I shaved twice because my hands kept shaking. I carried the ticket in an envelope tucked against my chest like a heart. There were cameras everywhere. There were security guards. There were polite people who smiled too easily. They explained the process. Verification, waiting period, media rules, tax rules. They told me the words every human being wants to hear. Mr. Douglas, you have the winning ticket. They shook my hand. They gave me forms. They took my photo. They asked me how it felt. I smiled because that's what you do when the world is watching. Inside, I felt like a man standing on ice, listening for cracks. The local news found me by the time I got back to my car. A microphone shoved toward my face. A reporter asking what I would do with the money. I said the first honest thing that came to mind. Make sure my granddaughter is safe, I said. Make sure my family is okay. That clip would later be played over and over, as if it were part of a performance. By late afternoon, my phone was flooded with numbers I didn't recognize. Old friends, old co-workers, people who once borrowed $20 from me and never paid it back, now acting like we were brothers. And then Ethan arrived. He pulled into my driveway in a black SUV that looked too expensive for his vague job. He stepped out wearing a crisp shirt, sleeves rolled just right, hair in place. He hugged me with both arms, hard enough that it looked real. Dad, he said into my ear, I'm proud of you. Proud of me for buying a lottery ticket. I should have laughed. I should have pulled away. Instead, I let him hold me for a second longer than I wanted. Emma came running down the porch steps when she saw him. She liked Ethan. He was fun in the way absent people can be when they show up. He brought gifts. He told stories. He left before he had to do the hard work of being family. Uncle Ethan, she shouted. He scooped her up, spun her around, and she squealed. It looked perfect. The three of us inside my house, the news still playing quietly, the cardboard check sitting on my kitchen table because someone from the lottery had insisted I take it home for a local photo opportunity later. Ethan poured me a drink from my cabinet without asking, like he owned the place. I heard about the verification, he said. That's incredible. 15 million. Do you understand what that means? I understand numbers, I said. He smiled, but there was something tight behind it. We should talk about protection, he said. People will come out of the woodwork. You need a plan. I watched him swirl the ice in his glass like he was thinking in circles. What kind of plan? I asked. A trust, he said quickly. Account controls, something that keeps you from being targeted. I almost choked on the irony. Targeted, I said. By who? He held my gaze. His eyes were calm. By anyone, he said. Even family, Dad. You know how people get. That night, while Emma watched a cartoon in the living room, Ethan sat with me at my dining table and spread papers out like he was doing me a favor. He said he had a friend who worked in finance. He said he could help me set up the right accounts before the money hit so no one could freeze anything. He asked for my ID. He asked for my signature. I hesitated. I asked questions. He answered them with smooth patience, the kind that makes you feel foolish for doubting. So I signed. And in that moment, I did the second thing that would later make me look guilty. I handed my son my signature on a clean page. At 9:30, Ethan left. He kissed Emma's forehead, told her he loved her, told me he would come by in the morning with the rest of the paperwork. After he drove away, I locked the doors. I checked the windows twice. I stood in my kitchen staring at the papers I had signed and felt a strange coldness settle in my stomach. It wasn't fear, not yet. It was the sense that something had already moved out of place, and I didn't know how to move it back. At 11:46, someone pounded on my front door. Not a knock. A pounding, hard and fast. I opened it without thinking, because I am a man who has lived in the same neighborhood for decades. I am a man who still believes the doorbell means someone needs help. 2 uniformed officers stood on my porch. Behind them, 2 detectives in plain clothes. One of the detectives held a folder. "Benjamin Douglas?" he asked. "Yes," I said. He flashed a badge and spoke the words that turned my blood to ice. "Sir, you're under arrest for lottery fraud." Emma appeared behind me in her pajamas, rubbing her eyes. "Grandpa?" she whispered. I turned back toward her, instinctive, protective. "It's okay," I told her, though nothing was okay. The detective stepped forward. "Turn around, sir," he said. "Put your hands behind your back." "What fraud?" I demanded. "What are you talking about? I bought the ticket like anyone else." The detective's face didn't change. "We have evidence your ticket was produced after the draw time," he said. "We have witness statements. We have surveillance. We have a cooperating store employee." The words didn't make sense. "Surveillance?" I said. "Witness statements? What store employee?" He lifted the folder and opened it, showing me still images printed on paper. A man at Milton's Market, leaning over the counter. The timestamp at the bottom, 10:17 p.m. The draw cutoff had been 10 p.m. The man in the image wore my jacket, my hat, and the camera caught enough of his face that anyone would swear it was me. My mouth went dry. "That's not possible," I said. "I was home. I was with my granddaughter." One of the officers stepped around me, entering my house. The detective's voice stayed calm, almost bored. "Sir, you'll have the chance to explain. Right now, you need to come with us." "I'm not going anywhere," I snapped, and I heard my own voice rise. I heard how it sounded, defensive, angry, guilty. The officer grabbed my arm. I yanked away. It took seconds to become a scene. Hands on me, a twist of pain through my shoulder, the click of cuffs. Emma started crying. High, terrified sobs. I tried to turn toward her, but the officer shoved me forward. "Grandpa!" she screamed. I looked back over my shoulder and saw my neighbor across the street step onto his porch, phone in hand, filming. I saw the detective's face in the porch light. And behind the detectives, at the edge of my yard, I saw Ethan's SUV. Parked half a block away, engine running, lights off. I couldn't see his face clearly through the windshield, but I knew he was there. I knew it. And in my stunned, furious mind, one thought formed sharp and simple. He is watching to see if I break. They took me to the station. The interview room smelled like stale coffee and disinfectant. The air was cold enough to make my skin prickle. They laid the evidence out as if they were presenting a neat little story. A store clerk claimed I had come in after the draw and pressured him. Offered him a cut. Told him I knew how to override the system. They had a screenshot of a text message on a phone registered to me, sent to the clerk. Do it now. I'll make it worth your while. They had bank records showing that earlier that week a new account had been opened online in my name, tied to a routing number I didn't recognize. They had a printed email with my name on it, sent to the lottery office. I will be claiming a large prize. Please expedite processing. I stared at it all and felt something sick settle into my chest. None of this is mine, I said. The detective leaned back. Your name is on it, he said. Your ID was used. Your phone sent the message. That's not my message, I said. I didn't send it. He slid a plastic evidence bag across the table. Inside was a phone. My phone. They had taken it from my pocket when they arrested me. We pulled the text history, he said. It's right there. You want to keep lying? That's your choice. I looked at the screen through the plastic. I saw the thread with the clerk's number. I saw my name at the top. And I felt a terrible, stupid, humiliating thought. What if I did it and I don't remember? I was exhausted. I had been shaking all day. I had drunk whiskey with Ethan at the table. Had I been careless? Had I stepped out? Had I done something foolish? The detective watched my face and saw the doubt. That's what he wanted. He pressed. So tell me, Benjamin, he said, voice softer now, like he was offering me a way out. Did you think you could cheat the system? Did you think no one would notice? Or did you think you were just smarter than everyone else? I stared at him and felt anger flare. I am not a criminal, I said. He nodded slowly, like he'd heard that 1,000 times. Everyone says that, he replied. I asked for a lawyer. They gave me a public defender the next morning, a tired woman with sharp eyes named Marisol Pena. She scanned the file, then looked at me like she was assessing whether I was worth her limited time. This is bad, she said. This isn't a misunderstanding. They think you colluded with a retailer to generate a winning ticket after cutoff. That's felony fraud. If they can prove you used the lottery system illegally, you could be looking at a long sentence. I didn't do it, I said. She held up a hand, not unkind, but firm. Then you need to stop acting like you did, she said. Because right now, the evidence tells a clean story and you're the villain in it. That word landed like a punch. Villain. I wanted to deny it. But in that gray room with the fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, I understood something brutal. If you are an old man in handcuffs holding a $15 million ticket, people want you to be guilty. They want the story to make sense. Greed makes sense. A simple monster makes sense. And I had given them plenty of reasons to see me that way. I had hidden the ticket. I had locked my bedroom door. I had signed papers without reading every line. I had refused to call anyone. I had snapped at the officers. I had looked like a man with something to hide. So the days that followed were a slow stripping away of dignity. They moved me through intake. They took my belt, my shoelaces. They photographed me like I was livestock. In the holding cell, men watched me with eyes that measured value. "Lottery boy," one of them said. "You gonna buy us dinner?" I ignored him. That was my mistake. The first week inside, I kept my mouth shut and my posture stiff, like I could still control the narrative by refusing to engage. I told myself Ethan would help. I told myself my son wouldn't let his father rot in jail over a misunderstanding. Then Marisol came to visit again, her expression darker. "Your son came to the station," she said. My heart lifted stupidly. "He did?" I asked. "What did he say?" "He said he's worried about your mental state," she replied. "He filed a motion to limit your access to your finances. He claims you've been confused lately, that you've made erratic decisions." The air left my lungs. "That's a lie," I said. "I'm fine." "It doesn't matter if it's a lie," she said. "It matters that he said it. It makes you look unstable. It helps them argue you were desperate. It makes the fraud motive stronger." I stared at her. "My own son," I whispered. "He's also asking the court to appoint him as temporary financial guardian," she added. which would allow him to manage the prize money if it's released. I felt something hot and poisonous rise in me. "Why would he do that?" I asked, and my voice sounded small. Marisol watched me carefully. "Tell me the truth, Mr. Douglas," she said. "Do you have conflicts with your son about money?" I almost laughed. Conflicts? We had silence, distance, avoidance, years of it. But in that moment, the pieces shifted in my mind, not yet forming a clear picture, but making a new shape. Ethan had been eager. Ethan had talked about protection. Ethan had asked for my signature. Ethan's SUV had been down the street during my arrest. I swallowed and said the words that felt like betrayal, even as they left my mouth. "I think my son set me up," I said. Marisol did not react like I expected. No shock, no disbelief. She simply nodded once, slow. "Then we need proof," she said. The next 2 weeks were hell made of paperwork and waiting. Marisol filed requests. She demanded the store's full surveillance footage, not just still images. She asked for the digital logs from the lottery terminal. The prosecution stalled. They claimed it would take time. They claimed chain of custody issues. Meanwhile, the news ran my face every night. Local man arrested in lottery fraud scheme. They showed my old high school yearbook photo beside my mugshot. They interviewed neighbors who said they always thought he was quiet. They speculated about how long I had been planning it. People love a fall. In jail, men who knew nothing about me decided I was either rich or stupid. Some tried to befriend me, some tried to corner me. One night, as I lay on a thin mattress listening to distant shouts, a man in the bunk across from me spoke without looking up. "You did it," he said. I turned my head. "What?" I asked. He shrugged. "Men don't get arrested like that unless they did it," he said. "You thought you were clever. Now you're here. That's the world." I wanted to argue. I wanted to explain. Instead, I stared at the ceiling and felt the awful truth settle deeper. Even I was starting to doubt myself. Then the crack appeared in the story, and it came from the one person I never expected. Emma. My daughter brought her to see me on a Saturday afternoon, after weeks of me refusing because I couldn't stand the thought of her seeing me behind glass. But my daughter insisted. "Dad, she cries at night," she said over the jail phone. "She thinks you're gone forever." So I agreed. Emma sat on the other side of the thick glass, her small hands pressed against it like she could push through. "Grandpa," she whispered into the phone, eyes shining. I swallowed hard. "Hi, Peanut," I said. She looked around the room like she didn't trust it. Then she leaned closer to the glass and lowered her voice. "Uncle Ethan told me something," she said. My blood went cold. "What did he tell you?" I asked carefully. "He told me not to talk about it," she said, and her lip trembled. "But I don't like secrets. Mom says secrets are what bad people use." Smart girl, brave girl. "What secret?" I asked. Emma glanced at her mother, then back at me. "Uncle Ethan took your phone that night," she whispered. "When you went to the bathroom. He said he needed to check something, and he took it into the kitchen." I felt my throat tighten. "How long?" I asked. "I don't know," she said. "A long time, and he was typing. He was smiling, but not a nice smile." I closed my eyes for a second, the world tilting. "He also used your computer," she added quickly, "in your study. I saw him. I asked what he was doing. He said he was helping you because you're old and you get confused." Something inside me broke, quiet and clean. I opened my eyes. "Did he do anything else?" I asked. Emma nodded, then hesitated. "He called someone," she said, "in the driveway. I heard him say, 'Tonight. It has to be tonight. He'll sign if he's scared.'" I gripped the phone so hard my knuckles ached. "Did you tell your mom?" I asked. Emma shook her head. "He said you would get mad at me," she whispered. "But I don't want you to be here. I want you home." I stared at my granddaughter through the glass and felt a rage so deep it made my vision blur. Ethan had used her, had used a child's trust, had used her presence in my house as cover. Marisol listened to my account of Emma's words without interruption. When I finished, she sat back, eyes narrowed. "Okay," she said. "Now we have a direction." The next week, Marisol brought me something that changed everything. A copy of the digital access log from my home computer, obtained through a subpoena and an IT specialist. There were remote logins, not from my IP address, from Ethan's company network, and the timestamps matched the night he sat at my dining table acting like a loving son. "It shows someone accessed your email," Marisol said. "Someone sent messages from your account. Someone downloaded forms. Someone created those finance documents." "Ethan?" I whispered. She nodded once. "We're going to request the judge reconsider bail," she said, "because this is no longer just a fraud case. This is family exploitation, and we need you out to help us find him." The prosecutor fought it. He claimed I was manipulating my granddaughter's testimony. He painted me as an old man trying to shift blame. But the judge, a heavy-set man with tired eyes, read the log report and stared at the prosecution with irritation. "This raises questions," he said. "I'm granting bail." Bail. A word that sounds hopeful until you understand what it costs. My daughter had to put a lien on her small condo. I had to sign conditions that made my stomach twist. Weekly check-ins, no leaving the county, no contact with the store clerk, and I walked out of that jail on a bright morning, squinting in the sunlight like a man waking up from a nightmare. I expected relief. What I felt instead was a cold, focused need. Find Ethan. Because in the time I sat in that cell being called a thief on television, my son had been moving, planning, taking. When I got home, my house felt violated. Drawers slightly open. My study chair moved. My old file cabinet, the one I kept insurance documents in, unlocked. Emma's drawings were still on the fridge, cheerful and innocent, like the house hadn't been turned into a crime scene by blood. My daughter made coffee. Emma sat close to me like she was afraid I would disappear again. "What now?" my daughter asked quietly. I looked at them both. "Now," I said, "I do what I should have done years ago." I didn't mean the lottery. I meant my son. The first place I went was Ethan's apartment, a sleek building downtown with a lobby that smelled like perfume and money. The concierge looked at my worn jacket and my lined face and treated me like background. "I'm here to see Ethan Douglas," I said. He typed on a tablet, then frowned. "He moved out 2 days ago," he said. 2 days, while I was still behind bars. "Where did he go?" I asked. The concierge's face went blank. "I can't disclose that," he said. I leaned closer, just enough that he could see the hard edge in my eyes. "I am out on bail," I said. "I was accused of a felony. My son is connected to it. If you help him disappear, you're going to be answering questions later." He swallowed. "I don't know where he went," he said quickly. "He left in a hurry. He had movers. He paid cash. That's all." Cash. He had access to cash because of the accounts he opened in my name, because of the documents he had me sign. My phone buzzed that afternoon with a notification from my bank. Account update. I opened it and felt my stomach drop. A new transfer had been attempted. A large one, blocked due to suspicious activity. Ethan was still reaching, still trying to pull money out of a prize that hadn't even been fully released yet. I drove to Marisol's office and showed her the alert. She stared at it, jaw clenched. "He's trying to take control before the lottery releases funds," she said. "That means he's either desperate or leaving." "Both," I said. Marisol nodded. "Then we need to move fast," she said. "But Benjamin, you can't play vigilante. If you violate bail, they will throw you back in and Ethan wins." I looked at her. "Tell me what I'm allowed to do," I said. She exhaled. "You're allowed to be a citizen," she said. "You're allowed to report. You're allowed to document. You're allowed to look." So I looked. I started with what I knew about my son. His habits, his weaknesses, the things he couldn't hide even when he tried to be someone else. Ethan likes control. He likes clean exits. He likes to disappear without mess. Which meant he would not have simply run without preparation. He would have staged it. I searched my house the way I used to search job sites when I worked construction, back when I was younger and trusted my hands more than my luck. Behind a bookshelf in my study, I found a folder I had never seen before. Inside were photocopies of my ID, my birth certificate, my social security card, and a printed itinerary, a one-way flight departing in 3 days. Destination, Vancouver. Not in my name. In mine with one letter changed, Benjamin Douglas. A typo that could slip through if no one looked too closely. My son had prepared to run using my identity. He wasn't just stealing money. He was stealing my existence. That night, I sat at my kitchen table staring at the itinerary while Emma colored quietly beside me. My daughter watched me, worried. "Dad?" she said softly. "What are you thinking?" I didn't answer at first, because if I said it out loud, it would become real. Finally, I said, "He planned to disappear as me." My daughter's face went pale. "He wouldn't," she whispered. I looked at her. "He already did," I said. "He disappeared while I was in jail wearing my name like a coat." The next morning, Marisol made calls, police reports, alerts, attempts to flag the fake travel documents, but bureaucracy moves like mud. Ethan moved like a knife. By noon, we got a call from the detective assigned to my fraud case, Detective Raskin. He still sounded like he didn't trust me. "Mr. Douglas," he said, "we reviewed the computer logs your attorney provided. It suggests your son accessed your accounts." "It suggests?" I said, bitter. "We're investigating," he replied. I could hear the hesitation, the careful legal tone. "We also interviewed the store clerk again," he said. "He's changing his story." Of course he was, because Ethan had likely paid him, threatened him, promised him a cut. "Detective," I said, voice tight, "my son is trying to leave the country under my identity." A pause. "Do you have proof?" he asked. I told him about the itinerary. He said, "Email it to me," as if the world waited for email. I ended the call and felt the old helplessness claw at me again. Then the second hook arrived, not from the police, but from Ethan himself. My phone rang that evening. Unknown number. I answered. Silence at first. Then a familiar voice, low and calm. "Hi, Dad," Ethan said. My hand tightened around the phone. "Where are you?" I asked. He chuckled softly. "You sound angry," he said. "That's understandable." "You put me in jail," I said. "You let a child watch her grandfather get handcuffed. You sat there while they called me a thief." He sighed, like I was exhausting. "I didn't put you in jail," he said. "You did. You signed. You trusted. You wanted to be the hero. You wanted to hold the money and pretend you could keep it safe." My vision blurred with rage. "Why?" I demanded. "Why do this to your own father?" His voice hardened slightly. "Because you were going to waste it," he said. "You were going to give it away. You were going to build a little sanctuary and pretend it made you noble. And I'm done being the son who gets nothing while you play grandfather of the year." "You abandoned your mother," I said, and the words tasted like blood. "She died waiting for you." Silence. Then colder than before. "Don't talk about her," he said. And in that moment, I heard it. Not guilt, not pain, ownership. Like my wife's memory belonged to him more than it belonged to the man who held her hand through chemo. "I'm going to fix this," he said after a beat. "I'm going to make you comfortable. You'll get a nice little monthly allowance. You won't have to worry, and I'll handle the rest." "Handle the rest," I repeated, meaning steal it. "I prefer the word manage," he said. I took a breath, forcing my voice to steady. "What do you want?" I asked. He paused, as if pleased I had finally asked the right question. "I want you to cooperate," he said. "Drop the accusations. Tell your lawyer you were confused. Tell the police you acted alone." "Why would I do that?" I asked. His voice softened again, syrupy. "Because I can make Emma's life complicated," he said. "And your daughter's. You think this is only about you? People can be persuaded. People can lose jobs. People can get investigated. Mistakes can be found." My skin went cold. "You threaten my granddaughter," I said, and my voice came out low and dangerous. "I'm not threatening," he replied. "I'm explaining reality. You taught me that, Dad. The world rewards the prepared." The line went dead. I sat there in my kitchen with the phone pressed to my ear, hearing only dial tone. Emma was asleep upstairs. My daughter was in the living room, exhausted, unaware that her brother had just drawn a line through our family. I didn't sleep that night. I sat at my table with the itinerary, the fraud case file copies, and one clear decision forming in my mind. I was not going to chase Ethan with fists. I was going to cut him out of the air. My son liked control. He liked to pull strings, so I was going to offer him a string, a baited one. The next morning I called Detective Raskin again. "I spoke to Ethan," I said. Silence on the line. "You did what?" he asked. "He called me," I said. "He threatened my family. He told me to confess." Raskin's voice sharpened. "Did you record it?" I closed my eyes. I hadn't. Because I was still learning, still adapting, still furious and old and not built for traps. "No," I said. "But I can get him to call again." Raskin paused. "You understand if you contact him, you could compromise the case," he said. "I understand if you do nothing, he leaves the country under my name," I replied. Another pause. Then finally he said, "What do you have in mind?" I told him. It was simple, and that's why it would work. I had Emma's mother text Ethan from her phone. Not accusing, not begging, just a calm message that sounded like surrender. "Dad's tired. He wants this over. He's willing to talk. If you want the money, come meet him. One chance. No police." Ethan responded within 10 minutes. Of course he did. He couldn't resist the idea of winning clean. He sent an address. A warehouse district near the river. Old industrial lots, empty at night. The kind of place you choose when you want to control sightlines. He added one sentence. "Come alone." I showed the message to Detective Raskin and Marisol. Marisol's face tightened with fear. "No," she said immediately. "Benjamin, absolutely not. This isn't a movie. He threatened your family. You don't know what he's capable of." I looked at her. "I know what he's capable of," I said. "He put me in jail and smiled while my granddaughter cried." Raskin watched me, then nodded once. "We'll handle it," he said. "You won't be alone. But he can't see us." That evening, I drove toward the warehouse district with my hands steady on the wheel and my heart pounding like it did when I was a young man facing danger I didn't understand. Raskin's team moved separately. Unmarked cars, dark clothes, radios. They told me where to park. They told me where to stand. They told me not to be a hero. I stood under a flickering streetlight beside an empty loading dock. The river smelled damp and metallic in the air. My breath fogged. A car approached slowly. Ethan's SUV. It rolled into view like a predator taking its time. He stepped out alone, hands empty, posture relaxed. He looked at me like I was a problem that had finally learned its place. "Dad," he said. "Good. You came." I didn't answer. He walked closer, the gravel crunching beneath his shoes. "You're older than I thought," he said, and his eyes ran over me with something like disgust. "Jail took a lot out of you." "Why here?" I asked, voice flat. He smiled. "Privacy," he said. "No interruptions." He stopped a few feet away. "Let's be efficient," he said. "You're going to sign a statement. You're going to tell them you acted alone, and you're going to sign control of the prize accounts to me. After that, you can go home and play grandfather again." He pulled a folder from inside his jacket. Papers. Always papers with Ethan. "Where did you get those?" I asked. He shrugged. "My friend in finance," he said, mocking the words he had fed me before. Turns out signatures are easy when someone hands you practice. I stared at the folder and felt a strange calm settle. This was the moment he had wanted. A father cornered. A son in control. So I gave him what he expected. I took a step forward, like I was closing in to listen. He leaned slightly, confident, and I said softly, "They're here." His smile flickered. "What?" he snapped. I lifted my chin toward the shadows behind him. The warehouse door across the lot opened. Unmarked officers flowed out, fast and quiet, weapons low but ready. Ethan spun, eyes wide, and for the first time I saw something real in his face. Not calm. Fear. He backed up, hands rising instinctively. "Dad!" he shouted, turning back toward me, betrayal twisting his features. "You set me up." I looked him dead in the eyes. "You set me up first," I said. Detective Raskin stepped forward, badge visible, voice sharp. "Ethan Douglas," he said, "you're under arrest for identity theft, fraud, witness tampering, and intimidation." Ethan's face contorted, rage and panic mixing. "This is nonsense," he shouted. "He's lying. He's a criminal." Raskin didn't flinch. "We have the messages," he said. "We have the financial logs. We have the forged documents. And thanks to your little folder, we have your fingerprints on everything." Ethan's gaze snapped back to me. "You did this," he hissed. I didn't move. I didn't gloat. I simply watched as the officers grabbed his arms and pulled them behind his back, the same way they had done to me, the same click of cuffs, the same helpless jerking motion as a body realizes it is no longer in control. Ethan tried to twist toward me as they led him past. "You think you won?" he spat. "You think you're righteous? You're just an old man with a piece of paper. They'll forget you. They'll forget this." I leaned closer as he passed, keeping my voice low so only he could hear. "Emma won't forget," I said, "and neither will I." They put him in the car. The SUV sat abandoned behind him, engine still ticking, like even his escape plan didn't know what to do now. Raskin approached me afterward, his expression unreadable. "You did good," he said finally. "You kept it together." I felt the adrenaline drain, leaving me hollow and shaking. "My granddaughter testified," I said. "A child had to fix what adults broke." Raskin looked away briefly, as if ashamed. "We'll make it right," he said. It did not become right overnight. There were hearings. There were statements. There were days of my face still on the news, now with new headlines. Lottery fraud case takes shocking turn. Son arrested in plot to frame father. People who had whispered about me in grocery aisles suddenly smiled too wide when they saw me again. I learned something then. The world does not apologize. It simply changes its opinion and expects you to be grateful. The prosecutor dropped the fraud charges against me when the full terminal logs showed something critical. The winning ticket had been printed at the correct time, but the system had been accessed through a backdoor remote connection tied to Ethan's credentials. The store clerk confessed after facing his own charges. He admitted Ethan had approached him weeks earlier, offered him money, and promised him a clean cut. Ethan had arranged it so that I would win. Not because he wanted me to be happy, because he needed a winner he could control. A father with soft spots and a trusting signature. When the prize money was finally released, it came with a court-ordered protective structure that Ethan could not touch. I sat in a quiet office with Marisol and a financial administrator, signing legitimate documents this time, my hands steady, my eyes clear. And when it was done, when the money was real and safe, I drove home and sat on my porch with Emma beside me. She leaned into my side like she used to before all of this. "Grandpa," she said softly, "are you still sad?" I looked at her, this small person who had been brave when grown men hid behind paperwork. "I'm sad," I admitted, "but I'm also awake." She frowned, not understanding. I smiled gently. "It means I see things clearly now," I told her. "Like dinosaurs?" she asked. I almost laughed, but I didn't. I just nodded. "Like dinosaurs," I said. Ethan's trial came months later. I attended one day. One was enough. He sat at the defense table in a suit that looked too expensive for a man facing prison, his face composed, his eyes still trying to control the room. When he saw me, he didn't look ashamed. He looked angry, like I had stolen something from him. Maybe I had. I had stolen his certainty that he could take from me without consequence. I had stolen his belief that I was weak. When the judge read the sentence, Ethan's face finally cracked. Not tears, fury, panic, the collapse of a plan. He was led away in cuffs again. And this time, no one filmed me. No one called me lottery boy. They called him what he was. A man who tried to bury his father alive for money. Afterward, I did what I had promised myself on the first day. When a reporter asked me what I would do if I won, I made sure my granddaughter was safe. I paid off my daughter's condo. I set up an education fund for Emma that cannot be touched by anyone but her when she's grown. I fixed the roof. I replaced the old furnace that had rattled for years. And I did something else. Something quieter. I took my wife's wedding ring from the box where I'd kept it since her funeral, and I held it in my palm for a long time. I thought about how she would have looked at Ethan in that courtroom. How she would have mourned him and condemned him at the same time. I thought about the way she used to say, "Benjamin, love is not permission." She was right. Love is not permission to destroy you. People asked me later if I hated my son. The truth is uglier than hate. Hate is simple, clean, fuel. What I felt was grief, heavy and permanent. I lost a son long before the cuffs. I just didn't want to admit it. But I gained something too. I gained my name back. And when I walk through town now, when I see the same neighbors who once watched me get dragged off my porch, I hold my head high. Because I know the final truth of this story. I wasn't the villain, I was the target, and I survived.
My grandpa's words really happened. I believe him. If you want more true tales like this, hit subscribe.